Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into a different kind of story, the kind that cuts right to the core of what it means to be human. We're talking about harsh reality checks, unexpected moments of kindness, and unbelievable betrayals. These are stories that will make you rethink everything you thought you knew about a person. They'll challenge you, they'll break your heart, and they'll probably make you a little angry. So, grab a cup of coffee, settle in, and let's get into it. The first story today is from a thread that asked, "What's the harshest reality check you've ever had as a child?" And this is a gut punch. It's a story about a little boy who grew up in an orphanage and the lesson he taught someone who had everything. He grew up in an orphanage where meals were a luxury. He talks about lying awake at night, his stomach growling, dreaming of a mom who would cook for him. This wasn't a sad story for pity's sake, it was just his life. At 12 years old, his only friend from school invited him to stay at his house for the weekend. For the first time, he saw what a normal family looked like. The next morning, he watched his friend's mom pack his lunch. A simple peanut butter sandwich cut into perfect triangles with a note tucked inside. It was a small act of love, one he had only ever dreamed of. But then, his friend rolled his eyes and a look of pure entitlement crossed his face. "Peanut butter again, Mom. Why can't you pack something good? Everyone else gets cool lunches." The mom's smile faded. She looked hurt. And in that moment, something inside the boy from the orphanage snapped. All the hunger, all the longing, all the loneliness that had been bubbling inside him just came pouring out. He looked at his friend, and his voice, which was usually so quiet, was shaking with emotion. "Do you know what I had for lunch yesterday?" he asked. The friend was caught off guard. "Nothing. The day before, half a stale bread slice I shared with another kid. At the orphanage, we fight over food scraps. And you're complaining because your mom, who loves you enough to make you a lunch, gave you peanut butter." The friend got defensive, lashing out like a cornered animal. "You don't understand, you're just jealous." And the boy, with a clarity that came from years of pain, said, "Jealous? You're right. I'm jealous. I'm jealous you have a mom who loves you and you're too spoiled to even see it." The friend, in a moment of pure cruelty, fired back. "Get out," he snapped. "No wonder you're in an orphanage. Who would want a kid like you?" Those words, he says, stung more than any hunger ever had. As he grabbed his backpack, the weight of the moment pressing down on him, he turned to his friend's mom. His voice was no longer filled with anger, but with gratitude. "Thank you for offering to make me lunch," he said. "Where I come from, a peanut butter sandwich made by someone who cares would be better than gold." A harsh reality check for one boy, and a heartbreaking lesson for another. The next story is a beautiful, quiet tribute to a person who saw someone's pain when everyone else looked away. It's from a thread that asked, "Who saw your pain when everyone else looked away?" The story begins in 1977. A fourth-grade boy's mother died during childbirth, and the guilt, he says, consumed him. His father, lost in his own grief and rage, made sure the boy knew it was his fault. Every night his father would drink himself into a rage, pointing at him and slurring, "You killed her the day you were born." After a while, the boy stopped speaking, not a single word. He says the silence became his shield. Everyone tried to get him to talk, the teachers, the school counselor, his family. But Mrs. Allen, his music teacher, was different. While others tried to force him, she noticed something no one else did. She noticed how he would mouth the words to songs during choir, never making a sound. She saw him. One rainy Tuesday, after choir practice, Mrs. Allen walked to the piano. She didn't say a word. She just took a worn old piano book from her bag, the kind mothers pass down to their children. The moment she placed it in front of him, something broke inside him. He started crying. Not the quiet, silent tears he had grown used to. These were deep, gasping sobs that had been trapped for months, maybe years. He waited for her to pull away, for her to tell him to stop crying, for her to get uncomfortable with his pain, just like everyone else had. But Mrs. Allen didn't move. She didn't try to hug him or tell him everything would be okay. She simply placed her hand on his and sat there. Her silence, he says, spoke volumes. It said, "I understand," louder than words ever could. She never forced him to sing again. During choir, she let him sit at the piano, turning the pages while others performed. She knew what others didn't, that sometimes silence screams louder than any song. Okay, let's switch gears. This next story is a parent's worst nightmare come to life, but with a satisfying, triumphant ending. It's from a thread about parents who found their missing children. This parent, we'll call him Mark, lost his daughter back in 2016. Her mom and grandma took her during their weekend visit. Looking back, he says, he should have seen the red flags. They'd been asking weird questions about her documents and taking extra photos of her for months. Then, they disappeared completely. They filed abuse allegations against him at the courthouse, and suddenly, half the town thought he was a monster. His own sister stopped talking to him. The police shrugged and said it was a civil matter since they had partial custody. Mark spent the next 2 years living out of his car on weekends, following leads across states. They kept moving her between schools, using different names. He kept every document, fake names, school records, everything. Everyone thought he was crazy, showing them all these papers and connections. Then they made a mistake. The grandma tried using his kid's real birth certificate to claim Social Security in Montana. A clerk noticed the discrepancy because they'd been using fake documents elsewhere. Federal marshals got involved. They found them in a cabin way out in nowhere. They had been homeschooling her, telling her that Mark had died in an accident. His daughter needed therapy to process everything, but she's with him now and doing so much better. She just started high school this year. Her mother and grandmother are both serving 12-year sentences for parental kidnapping, identity theft, and fraud. A long, painful journey, but one that proves a parent's love is a force that can overcome anything. The next story is a classic case of a neighbor taking advantage until someone finally snapped. It's from a thread that asked, "They took advantage until I snapped. What's your story?" This person's father installed a backup generator 30 years ago. Nothing fancy, just enough to keep the essentials running during blackouts. Living in an area prone to storms, they had an informal agreement with their neighbors to share it for basic needs. This arrangement worked perfectly for decades. Then, the house next door was sold. During the first power outage, the new family seemed reasonable. They politely asked to connect for their essential needs. But something felt off. The narrator noticed their generator struggling more than usual. Walking by their house that night, what he saw made his blood boil. Every room was lit up. 3 AC units running full blast. The kids were gaming, and they were charging their Tesla in the garage. His home started experiencing power fluctuations. The stockpile of frozen meals he prepared for his elderly mom began to thaw. The generator was making concerning noises from the overload. He tried explaining the situation to the new neighbors. "The generator wasn't meant for this load," he said. "It's for emergencies only." Their response? "Electricity is electricity. Stop being so stingy." That generator, he says, was the last thing his father and he installed together. It was a point of pride. Yesterday, after seeing them plug in another AC unit, he simply walked outside and locked the generator's access panel. Now, they're calling him cruel for letting their kids suffer in the heat. Guess they'll need to get their own generator. This next story is a simple reminder of the profound empathy that can come from the smallest humans. It's from a thread that asked, "What's the most badass thing you've seen a tiny human do?" His daughter Emma was always the smallest in her ballet class. But what she lacked in size, she made up for in heart. During one Wednesday class, a new student arrived, a little boy named James, who stood nervously by the door, trembling slightly. While the other children whispered and pointed, Emma observed him with a look of concern. The teacher was introducing James when Emma suddenly walked over to him. Her tiny ballet slippers made soft sounds against the wooden floor. The parents held their breath, unsure what she was about to do. Without hesitation, she sat down, took off her beloved pink ballet slippers, the ones she had begged for weeks, and held them out to James. "These are magic shoes," she said earnestly. "They make you brave. I wear them whenever I'm scared." The teacher started to explain that James needed his own shoes, but Emma looked up with that determined expression only a 5-year-old can muster. "Everyone needs magic shoes for their first day," she declared with unwavering certainty. What happened next brought tears to everyone's eyes. Emma spent the entire class dancing in her socks, her feet sliding occasionally on the smooth floor. But she didn't mind at all. She was too busy watching James, who wore her slippers with growing confidence. By the end of class, James was smiling, the earlier trembling completely gone. That little girl proved that kindness is the most badass superpower of all. The next story is a classic case of public disrespect that leaves you speechless. It's a vent from a woman who just couldn't believe what happened. The narrator, a 24-year-old woman, went shopping with her 26-year-old boyfriend because he needed new work shirts. What should have been a normal shopping trip turned into the most awkward experience ever. The second they walked into the store, an employee, probably in her early 20s, swooped in like a hawk. The narrator says she's not even exaggerating. The employee completely ignored her existence and zeroed in on her boyfriend like he was the last piece of chocolate in the store. "Let me help you find the perfect fit," she said in a super flirty voice. She paraded him through the men's section, holding up shirts against his chest and making ridiculous comments. "Oh my God, this slim fit would look so good on you. Blue is definitely your color. It matches your eyes." She giggled at everything he said. At one point, the narrator tried to ask about a blouse, and the employee just dismissed her with a wave of her hand, saying, "Women's section is over there," without even glancing her way. But it gets even better. At checkout, this girl had the nerve to slip her number into his shopping bag. She tried to be sneaky, but the narrator saw her do it. Her boyfriend, being completely clueless, just thanked her for the help. The narrator was fuming but kept her cool. Her boyfriend found the note later and tossed it immediately. But seriously, who does that when someone's girlfriend is standing right there? This next story is a devastating account of a marriage that ended in a single, terrifying moment. It's from a thread that asked, "How did your marriage end?" The narrator's husband always told her he'd protect her, no matter what. So, when they were traveling through South Africa and heard a window smash at 2 a.m., she looked to him to keep her safe. They could hear the voices of multiple people entering the house they were renting. They were both terrified, but luckily, they were armed. As her husband jumped out of bed, she fully believed he would do anything to protect her. However, what followed made her see him for who he truly was. This coward took their only firearm and ran out into the hallway. She heard a bang, but what she hoped was him fighting the intruder off turned out to be him slamming the bathroom door shut, locking himself inside. She was now left in the bedroom, unarmed. As one of the men made his way upstairs, she started to panic. But the intruder, from what little she could understand, told her not to move and she wouldn't be harmed. She stood in the corner for 10 excruciating minutes as they took everything of value, all while trying to get into the bathroom where her husband was cowering. Her saviors ended up being the couple in the neighboring house who had seen what was happening and called the police. As soon as they heard the sirens, all 4 men ran out. When she finally saw her husband, she experienced a rage she'd never felt before. The next morning, she booked a one-way ticket home and immediately filed for divorce. Our final story for today is a chilling account from a former homeless person, a story that proves cruelty can come in the most unexpected forms. It's from a thread that asked, "Former homeless people, what's the darkest thing you've ever witnessed during that time?" The narrator was extremely skinny and had finally saved up enough money to have a sit-in meal in a small diner. When he walked in, he couldn't even sit down before the owner came over and told him to leave, saying he didn't want him scaring other customers or making anyone uncomfortable. He was used to this, so he just went and sat back down outside. Then, a very well-dressed woman and a few other people walked by, and she handed him a $100 bill. He thought he was dreaming, and the others with her told her how kind she was. He was forever grateful because this meant he could finally have a place to sleep for a few days. But 30 minutes later, she came back. She walked up to him and demanded he give her the money back, saying she needed it. He hesitated but handed it to her. Then she kicked his cup of coins over, and he asked why she was doing this. She responded that people like him were ruining the country, and she just wanted to impress the client she was with. He was heartbroken and begged her to leave him alone. She said she would gladly, but before she walked off, she took a bottle of pills out of her purse and threw them at him. She said they were weight loss pills, and since he was so disgustingly skinny, he should take them and maybe they would finish the job. He says nothing even comes close to that moment. The last story for today is a fantastic one from a police officer about a criminal who impressed him with his cleaning skills. It's a reminder that even in crime, there's a certain level of skill. This cop had a homeless guy going around the city breaking into countless houses. He'd seen people do this before, but none of them were like this guy. He would choose a house and wait until he knew nobody would be home, then effortlessly pick the locks and get inside. But instead of stealing anything, he would clean their entire house for them. He'd literally have a shower, eat some of their food, nap, and then just clean their house and leave. He'd usually get away with this for a week until the people who lived there started to notice things were off and called the police. When the police started getting multiple calls that someone was breaking into houses and cleaning them, they thought it was hilarious. He did this for months until someone finally came home early and caught him. But the guy had prepared for that too. He had made up a whole story about how he was a cleaner and had accidentally gone into the wrong home because they left their door open. He even had pre-made text messages and emails to back up his claim. Unfortunately, this house had cameras, so they could see him eating their food and everything. They finally arrested him, but when he went to court, he kept going. Nobody could prove it was him in any of the other houses. A truly bizarre and impressive criminal mind. And that's all the stories for today. What a journey, right? From the heartbreaking reality of a peanut butter sandwich to a criminal who just wanted to clean up. These stories remind us that life is full of unexpected moments, and that sometimes the most profound lessons come from the people you least expect.